Hello, 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 everybody. It's your favorite developer interviewer, Dub Purple Sharpie, otherwise known as Sharpie if you're feeling especially smart today. I am here with a very talented team from Persona Theory Games. Sakina Latif is the co-founder as well as manager director. We have Buddy Anwardi, who is the co-founder as well as game director, Michelle Lee, who is the art director, and Joshua Wong, who is the game designer. Welcome all.
Hi, thanks
Hey,
for having us.
yeah, wonderful to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy you all had time to make it. That's awesome. Now, Sakina, I understand we're here to talk about a special game. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Sure, the game is called Kabaret. Kabaret is about a boy named Jebat that gets cursed and turned into a monster and thrown into a world where there's creatures from myths and legends from Southeast Asia.
Ooh, that sounds really interesting. I think we have a trailer. Let's go ahead and roll it real quick.
쇼케 보이스다.
Now that was a very interesting trailer. I want to talk a little bit more about it. Are you able to tell me some more about the main character here, Sakina?
Yeah, sure. So Jebat, he gets turned into a monster that is quite a staple in Southeast Asian legends. Like if you travel around Southeast Asia, you will see them on temples. They're called nagas. Translated, they're dragons. And then he meets another character named Caretaker that is from a Malaysian folklore that's closely to do with our martial arts called silat. So it's like a warrior spirit. So people who practice that martial art will normally call upon this thing called harimau jadian, or we call it in English is were tiger. And then inside the cabaret itself, he'll meet monsters from Malay legends, Filipino legends, Indonesian legends. So it's like a melting pot of where all these monsters meet, and they talk about the state of their world, the state of the human world as well. And there's a lot of things that we throw back to the players, a lot of difficult
Ooh.
situations that the players have to think about. So it really puts on this the theme of it is like, what does it really mean to be a monster? And we'll explore this in the choices that the players have to make.
Now, I want to talk very briefly about that actual player experience, the first of which immediately jumped out to me when I started playing. Michelle, talk to me about these art decisions here. A lot of the art is very immersive. The characters literally look like they come out of almost religious illustrations or scriptures that I've seen inside of a lot of Southeast Asian culture. Was it inspired by that?
Yes, correct. They are mostly inspired by Southeast Asian culture and their traditional art pieces as well. Yes.
Now, I wanted to also talk a little bit about the animation style inside of the game. Now, this may just be me here, but it appeared as though there was a lot of physically 2D animated art that was drawn in there and then basically moved frame by frame almost to create the illusion of certain types of animation. We had things that are cut-ins that are literally just maybe 3 or even possibly 4 frames of just literally animated like different art styles together that create the illusion, almost like the best way I can think to say it is it's like watching a comic book be animated in real time. It's literally watching a moving comic book. Can you talk to me about that animation choice inside of this game?
Of course. One thing is that we have quite a short timeline to do that animation, and also the choices of the art style as well needs to be think about as well. So when we were creating the animation, we have to think about a lot of the time that's being put into it, and as well as the time constraint that we have to think about as well before creating it. And our art style is also quite detailed as well. If you have noticed, like the way the art is being made, there's a lot of patterns. Those take a lot of time. That's why when it comes to the animation frame, why the frame were kept short, it's like so we don't exceed the timeline, and so we can still put in a lot of details to the animation and animate it at the same time to make it looks like it's still smooth going. We still see a lot of movement, but in a very short frames, and everything just flow nicely through that and with the music as well. Yeah.
Speaking of the music, I want to go over to Buddy here because during the cut-ins, there are a lot of sound effects or SFX that actually play during the cut-ins to kind of give more breath to those animations. Buddy, can you talk to me about the mindset behind some of those SFX created?
I think we have to go back to our philosophy in designing these kinds of experiences. So none of us actually come from traditional game development backgrounds. So Sakina was from advertising. I myself was from film. Our other partner and founder, he's from website design. Our lead programmer was from business. So all of us are self-taught, and we bring our various artistic, I would say, skills or habits into the game designing process. So each of our products, they are meant to feel more like a film. So when we design our art, how the sequences flow from one scene to the next, it's a bit more cinematic. Same thing goes with the sound. If you notice our game, we actually don't have a mute button. So a lot
As
of
you
visual
shouldn't,
novels.
and you
Yes.
shouldn't, and
Yeah,
that's
you
correct.
shouldn't. Exactly. So these kinds of tiny design choices, we don't even have a windowed mode for our game. So we absolutely refuse to, the players are supposed to be immersed in the content. It's like watching a film. You don't go to a cinema and press, the window and it goes down, then, they'll be like 20 other people like, what the hell are you doing, bro? Right. So for the music part, a lot of the decisions come from how to get the emotions across appropriately to keep the audience immersed in the story without pummeling them too much. It's a bit like push and pull media, right? We're trying to draw the audience in, not slam them with so much information. So each of the scenes, we treat it like actual film scenes where different scenes will have different moods and emotions and atmosphere. So everything is sort of curated in a sense.
I want to call attention to two specific scenes that I had an opportunity to play inside the demo, which soft plug, if you haven't checked out the demo yet, go over to the Steam page, grab it. There's a free demo right now of Kabaret. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it, my personal self. But buddy, to get back over to it, there are two scenes that I actually want to talk about inside of the demo that personally resonated with me, where the music, I felt, in addition and coordination with the art style, really brought forward that full immersive experience. The very first of which was the title music, which was just mwah, 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 mwah. I absolutely loved it. It starts literally just with very soft instrumentation. You have an acoustic, what sounds like a string instrument, similar to a guitar, or very possible even, and I dare to say it, I don't know if it is or not, and correct me if I'm incorrect here, but it sounded very similar to a sitar, which I believe is a 16th fretted instrument, and actually uses eight strings itself, as well as a piano. And then the soft vocals literally come in about maybe 16 measures in. It sounds very similar to something that you would feel inside of a lounge or inside of like a jazz club. There's also a flute sounding aerophone that I wasn't able to identify necessarily. Can you talk to me about some of those instrumental choices inside of that song specifically? And more importantly, can you tell me whether or not I can listen to it right now on Spotify? Because I have a major need, a desire, if you will.
Okay. Music again. It's oh, but first, thank you for appreciating the song. Normally, some of the people I know from film, they would to raise funds, they would actually go and approach popular bands, because when people know that the bands have a huge following, then they're like, maybe my film will do better. But we don't take this kind of design decisions. We sort of have to look at in where we create our experiences. We have a saying where story is king, right? The script is the king. So when the script demands a kind of music to accompany it, right? To 50% of any experiences is audio and music. So and coincidentally, we know of a band, they're called Samba Sunda, awesome cultural band. They are actually I would say like a generational kind of a band, where the parents would then teach their children, the children would then teach their they would then have grandkids playing. So Samba Sunda is a 3-generational band. So the elders would play the cultural music, and the younger ones around our age, they would be experimenting with fusion. So the opening title was a mix of the old and the new. So it's a bit fusion. That's why you hear different kinds of instruments. They like to mix and match different cultural music or instruments. So we have some Japanese instruments, we have some Sundanese, Balinese music. We use a lot of the gamelan. So there's and the singer is, of course, she's really awesome, and she brings that really haunting sort of like a Amy Lee kind of a feel.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I only bring up the secondary example because it's literally such a strong contrast, and it really brings you into the vibe of Kabaret. But the literal music that you hear the very first time you go into Kabaret is completely different, while just as almost atmospheric. It's exclusively bells and percussion, and it's similar to bells that you would typically hear inside of a religious or cultural setting. And when I say religious setting, I mean that these are typically bells that you would hear literally almost being chimed, like literally in the middle of a service. Was that intentional? Was that also a part of the cultural decision inside of the game to kind of bring in those different atmospheres from a bunch of different cultural wealth of knowledge?
So in Cabaret, we have, I think, 3 different types of music. Like the opening title, it's an already existing song. So I can't be sure of the musicians' true intentions for the music, but it's definitely extremely cultural, and I would say it's slightly ritualistic. So maybe that's where this kind of sounds and feelings will come from. We definitely chose that song because of how it feels, particularly it's supposed to without spoiling too much, it's supposed to literally draw you into the world, right? So
Oh.
we sort of imagine where it's a bit difficult to educate new audiences to this kind of content, right? So we have to do it in a bit more of a gentle way. So this particular music piece is very easy to listen to. It's quite seductive, actually. So once it hits you the right notes, then you and Jebat, actually, you are approaching the cabaret. So this is the welcoming, the allure of the world and stuff like that. So generally, that's why.
I definitely felt those vibes, and it kind of goes on themes with something that everybody is thus far a part of this project said, is that it's really about creating an immersive experience and showcasing the story in its entirety, which you can't really do that unless you have literal, good, fantastic, immersive mechanics. Am I right? Now, Joshua, you are the game designer for this game. I know that this game, inside of the demo, I was able to actually use controller exclusively, and I understand the full game will actually have 100% full controller support as well. Talk to me about how the controller support inside of this game engine, which is Unity, helps bring the player into the immersive aspects of Kabaret.
Okay. Well, firstly, in terms of controls, accessibility is very important. Therefore, I believe that, but we believe that having different control schemes is very important for the wide variety of players that hopefully will play the game. In terms, when we first created Cabaret, it was more focused on keyboard and mouse, but as we developed for the controller as well, we had to tweak certain game mechanics to sort of fit both modes of controls. It was definitely a little bit challenging to cater to both, but ultimately I feel like it actually improved the gameplay overall. Yeah, that's
I completely agree. No, I really enjoyed personally playing the game and literally just having it on my TV and kind of creating almost like very similar to a film-esque, comic book-esque experience where I was actually literally immersed inside of the story. Now, I want to go back over to you, Sakina, because there is a lot inside of this game. Specifically, there's a glossary where you're able to showcase and learn different vocabulary and definition from language that you may not necessarily know. Specifically, my main language is English, but I do know a little bit of Amharic. I know a little bit of German. I know a little bit of Italian. Talk to me about what the glossary helps the player do.
I think because we want to reach a wider audience, not just from our side of the globe. So then we realize that even though we put the words in, you might necessarily not know how to pronounce it. So it's like teaching the players about a little bit on our Malay language, and then we also have tidbits about later on in the game. In the full game, we'll have the glossary will be more complete, where you will learn more about the monsters themselves. So it's really us sharing with the world what we grew up with, how we grew up, learning about some of these monsters, because some of them, we grew up as a cautionary tale, like the Pontianak that you meet in the demo. She's one of the most famous monsters in our region. So how to pronounce that word, like Pontiana, I realize I mean, it's second nature to us because we say it so many times. But then we realize, as more international players play it, then we realize actually yeah, we should have the glossary and try our best to put there how do you pronounce certain words. Like I think you in the very beginning, you will learn like selamat malam, which means good night to us. So simple words like that. And then sampan is the boat that Jebat arrives in to Cabaret. So it's really us sharing some part of ourselves with everyone.
I also understand that the main character is actually based inside of Malaysia, and a lot of the story does take place there. While a lot of the dwellers, which are like basically the names of the monsters and different entities that actually live inside of Cabaret that are being taken and ushered by the caretaker, are from a series of different cultures. I understand Malaysia itself has a very, very varied history when it comes to a series of different cultures and a series of different religious and a series of different understandings. Can you talk to me about why it was so important that you were able to kind of represent every single one of those different cultures from Malaysia inside of the game itself? Sakina.
I think why we wanted to have so many characters from Southeast Asia appear in Cabaret is, we feel like you rarely see them out. You see Norse mythology, you see Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, but I think Southeast Asia is where people don't really know much about, and there's so much mystery and mystic according to our legends, a lot of tragedy in our legends, based on our own history. We Southeast Asia historically have been uh, conquered, has been like basically taken apart. And then all these monsters are just feelings of how the people feel as well. There's a lot of history that we try to put in, that we like. It's not like a huge game where we can put a lot of the monsters in, but the ones that we do decide, we try to represent as much as possible. And really, it's again showing what is in Southeast Asia. Like, this is maybe only the tip of the iceberg, because as a studio, we focus on telling Southeast Asian stories based on our own experience. Buddy is a filmmaker. We did films about our own culture here. So it's just us, I guess, showing the world, like, there's these really cool monsters in our backyard. Come and meet them
I
and have tea.
absolutely love that. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I enjoyed meeting all of them. I enjoyed as the main character waking up and being a monster a little bit. I was kind of into it. He wasn't. I was. I was a big fan personally. But I want to go ahead and thank all of you all for taking time to be here and speak with me today. Thank you so much again for that experience.
Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
very much.
Well, everybody, as always, you can make sure to grab the game and check it out right now, wish listed on Steam. Links inside of the bio. Of course, you can also visit their fantastic website to find out more about when the game will be coming to a console near you. We have even more inside of this expo plan for later. Stay tuned.